They said my brother was guilty, but I knew in my heart they were wrong. Everyone told me I was making the biggest mistake of my life. My parents, my colleagues, even my own friends said, "Lewis, he's a lost cause. Don't throw away your career for him." But that night, when I saw the fear in my brother's eyes, I realized something I had never seen before. He wasn't lying. He was terrified. And that's when I made the most dangerous decision of my life, to stand by him when the whole world had already turned away. I didn't know then that this choice would uncover a web of lies, a courtroom betrayal, and the one truth that would change our family forever. My younger brother was a screw-up. Everyone knew it. So when he crashed into a Mercedes driven by a wealthy businessman who claimed Owen ran a red light, everyone, including our parents, assumed he was guilty. I was a corporate lawyer who'd spent years cleaning up after Owen's mistakes. And honestly, even I had my doubts, but there was something in his eyes that night that made me take the case. Everyone said I was throwing away my career to defend the indefensible. Then I found the dashcam footage, and I couldn't believe the truth. Before we dive in, I'm curious. Where are you watching from? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you love stories about family loyalty, truth, and second chances, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Now, let me take you back to the call that changed everything. The call came at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in October. I was in my apartment deep asleep after a 16-hour day at the firm when my phone started vibrating on the nightstand. "Lewis Perry," I answered groggily, assuming it was a work emergency. I was a senior associate at Whitman & Cross, one of Boston's top corporate law firms, and late-night calls weren't unusual. "Mr. Perry?" an unfamiliar voice said. "This is Officer Martinez with the Boston Police Department. Your brother, Owen Perry, has been in a car accident. He's at Massachusetts General Hospital. He's stable, but you're listed as his emergency contact." I was instantly awake. "What happened? Is he okay?" "He has some injuries, a broken arm, possible concussion, but he's conscious and stable. However, there are some complications with the accident. You should come down here as soon as possible." Complications. That word, in my experience, was never good. I threw on clothes and drove to the hospital, my mind racing. Owen, my 26-year-old brother, the one who dropped out of college twice, drifted from job to job and never seemed to get his life together. We were never that close, 6 years apart, living in completely different worlds. I was the golden child, scholarships, law school, partnership track. Owen was the family headache, the one everyone worried about, made excuses for, and bailed out again and again. I'd helped him more times than I could count, with rent, legal issues, a character letter after his DUI 3 years ago. Every time he promised to do better, every time he disappointed us again. So when Officer Martinez said complications, I assumed Owen had done something stupid again. When I reached the ER, I found him sitting on a hospital bed, left arm in a temporary cast, a bandage across his forehead, pale and shaken in a way I'd never seen before. Owen usually carried that cocky confidence, even when he was in trouble, but tonight he looked genuinely scared. "Lewis," he said as soon as he saw me, "thank God, I need you to listen to me. I need you to actually believe me this time. What happened?" I asked. "I was driving home from work," he said. "You have a job?" I couldn't hide my surprise. "Yes," he replied quickly, defensive. "I've been working at a warehouse for 3 months, night shift. I was driving home on Commonwealth Avenue when this guy in a Mercedes ran a red light and hit me." "Owen, I know what you're thinking," he said, before I could speak. "I know what everyone's going to think. But Lewis, I swear to God, I had the green light. I was going straight through, doing everything right. That guy came out of nowhere and slammed into my passenger side. I studied his face, searching for the old tells, the way his eyes shifted when he lied, that slight defensive tone when he knew he was in the wrong. But this time he met my eyes, steady, desperate, sincere. The other driver says you ran the red, I said carefully. The police report lists you at fault. He's lying, Lewis, he's lying. And there are 2 witnesses backing him up, but they're wrong or they're in on it. I had the green light. Owen, I sighed. You've got a DUI on your record from 3 years ago. You understand how that looks, right? I wasn't drinking tonight, he said firmly. I haven't had a drink in 2 years. I go to AA every week. Check my phone if you don't believe me. I've been sober. That stopped me cold. Owen had gone to AA after his DUI, but I'd always assumed it was for show, to please the court. You've really been going? I asked quietly. 26 months, he said, because I knew that if something ever happened, people would assume I was drunk or high. So I've been careful, really careful. I drive slow. I stop at every sign. I've been trying so hard to prove that I've changed. Something in his voice hit me hard. It wasn't the usual excuse or deflection. It was pain. Real pain. Who's the other driver? I asked. Some rich guy, Graham Hall. He was in a Mercedes. He's already got a lawyer here threatening me. The cops believe him because he's respectable, and I'm me. Before I could reply, the curtain drew back, and a man in a sharp, expensive suit stepped in. He was in his 50s, polished, confident, and radiating power. Mr. Owen Perry, he said coolly, not waiting for an invitation. I'm Richard Graves, attorney for Mr. Graham Hall. My client will be pursuing full damages for this accident. Your reckless driving caused significant damage to his vehicle and injuries that require medical care. I wasn't reckless, Owen began, but Graves cut him off. Save it for court. My client has 2 witnesses who saw you run a red light. The police report supports their claim. The traffic camera footage, while unclear on the lights, clearly shows your car striking his. We have an airtight case. Get out, I said, stepping between them. My brother has legal representation, and you are not to speak to him directly again. Any communication goes through me. Graves raised an eyebrow. And you are? Lewis Perry, attorney at law, I said. I'll be representing my brother. It wasn't until those words left my mouth that I realized I'd just made a life-altering decision. But the look on Owen's face, the flash of relief, of hope, made it impossible to take back. I see, Graves said with a smug smile. Well, Mr. Perry, I look forward to seeing you in court. My client is seeking $500,000 in damages, plus costs. I trust you'll advise him to settle quickly before this gets worse. He left and Owen grabbed my arm with his uninjured hand. Lewis, you can't pay that. I don't have anything. I'll lose everything. I'll go to jail. Please, you have to believe me. I looked at my brother, really looked at him, and made a decision that would either save him or destroy us both. Tell me everything, I said. From the beginning. The beginning. Every detail you remember, I told him. Over the next hour, while we waited for Owen to be officially discharged, he told me everything. He'd been driving home from his warehouse job at around 2:10 a.m. He was going straight through the intersection of Commonwealth Avenue and Clarendon Street when he saw a Mercedes speeding toward him from the left. The light had been green for at least 5 seconds. He was sure of it. He remembered glancing up, being extra careful because of his past. The Mercedes didn't slow down. It blasted through the red light and slammed into the passenger side of Owen's car, spinning it around before it crashed into a mailbox. The airbag deployed. Owen said he was dazed for a moment but conscious. When he came to, he pulled his car slightly forward to clear the intersection, then parked and got out to check on the other driver. That's when Graham Hall started yelling. He came at me immediately, Owen said, screaming that I ran the red, that I wrecked his car, that I was going to pay for everything. 2 people, a man and a woman, who'd apparently been standing near the crosswalk, came over. Hall turned to them and started ranting that I'd run the light, that he'd had to swerve to avoid being hit harder. And they agreed with him like they'd seen it all happen. But it was all lies. You're sure you had the green light, Owen? I asked quietly. I swear on everything, Lewis, I had the green. For several seconds. I watched him run the red and hit me. The next morning, after a few hours of restless sleep in my apartment, I went to the firm and called for an emergency meeting with the senior partners. I explained the situation and requested a leave of absence to take my brother's case. The reaction was far from supportive. Lewis Margaret, one of the senior partners, said sharply, "You're up for junior partnership next year. This is not the time to take on personal side projects." "This isn't a side project," I said firmly. "This is my brother." "Your brother," she repeated, "who has a DUI on record, and who allegedly ran a red light into a Mercedes driven by Graham Hall, who happens to be a major client of Morrison & Black, one of our biggest competitors." She leaned forward. "You're asking for time off from a critical caseload to defend what appears to be an indefensible case. My brother says he's innocent," I said. "And you believe him?" she asked skeptically. "I'm starting to." Margaret exchanged a look with the other partners. "Lewis, be realistic. You have a promising career here. Don't throw it away on family loyalty for someone who's proven reckless more than once. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for people like your brother is let them face the consequences of their actions." "He didn't do this," I said quietly. "Then hire him a lawyer. But don't derail your own career to play hero." I left that meeting with my leave of absence reluctantly approved, but it was clear my future at the firm now hung by a thread. When I told my parents what I was doing, their reaction was almost the same. "Lewis, please think about this," my mother said. "Owen has lied to us so many times. Why are you so sure he's telling the truth now?" "Because I looked him in the eye," I said. "And for once I didn't see excuses, I saw fear. Real fear. Mom, he's been sober for 2 years. He's been going to AA meetings, working steadily. What if he's really been trying and none of us noticed?" "Even if he has been trying," she said softly, "that doesn't mean he didn't make a mistake. People can be sober and still make bad decisions behind the wheel." "But what if he's innocent?" I asked, "and we all abandoned him because we were too ready to believe the worst?" There was a long silence. "Do what you think is right," my mother finally said. "But Lewis, please protect yourself. Don't let Owen drag you down with him." After hanging up, I sat in my apartment, surrounded by silence and doubt. Was everyone right? Was I being naive? Was I risking everything for a brother who'd spent years proving he couldn't be trusted? Then I remembered the look on Owen's face in that hospital bed, the desperation in his voice when he said, "I've been trying so hard to prove to everyone that I've changed." What if he really had changed, and none of us had given him the chance? I pulled out the police report and began to read. The accident had happened at 2:14 a.m. at the intersection of Commonwealth Avenue and Clarendon Street. The investigating officer had interviewed 2 witnesses, James Tucker and Sarah Vance. Both said they were waiting to cross the street when they saw Owen's car run a red light and hit Hall's Mercedes. The traffic camera footage was available, but, according to the report, inconclusive due to poor angle and image quality. The physical evidence, paint transfer and vehicle damage, matched a T-bone collision, but didn't prove who had the right of. Hall's statement claimed his light was green, that Owen appeared suddenly and he couldn't brake in time. Owen's statement, given while still shaken at the scene, was less clear. The officer even noted he appeared confused and possibly impaired, though his breathalyzer showed 0 alcohol. On paper, it looked open and shut. Owen was guilty, but good lawyers don't stop at the paperwork, they investigate. I started at the intersection itself. I drove there, parked, and studied everything. Signal timing, sight lines, traffic flow. Even at 2 a.m., Commonwealth Avenue was busy. I walked to where the witnesses claimed they'd been standing. From that spot, you could clearly see both lights. If Tucker and Vance had been there, they would have known exactly which light was green, which meant either Owen was lying or the witnesses were. I checked their details from the police report. James Tucker was a property manager for Holt Corp, the real estate company. Owned by Graham Hall. Sarah Vance worked as a bookkeeper. for one of Holt's subsidiaries. Both witnesses were employed by the man suing my brother. That didn't automatically mean they were lying, but it was enough to raise questions. I filed a request with the city for the traffic camera footage and hired an accident reconstruction expert, a retired investigator named Frank Delgado. The footage arrived first. I watched it frame by frame on my laptop. The camera caught the cars, but not the traffic lights clearly. Owen's car moved steadily through the intersection. Hull's Mercedes came from the side and struck him. The image was blurry, grainy, but something felt off. 2 days later, Frank arrived at my apartment with a laptop full of software and decades of experience. "Show me what you've got," he said. We spent hours going over every detail: police reports, photos, measurements. Frank took notes, ran calculations, enhanced frames. Finally, he looked up. "Okay, here's what I can tell you. The damage patterns match both stories. A T-bone like this could happen either way. Physics alone won't prove who ran the light. So we have nothing," I said. "I didn't say that," he replied. "Look here." He zoomed in on a still frame. "See Hull's car just before impact? He's not braking. If his light was green and your brother ran the red, he should have seen him and hit the brakes. But his speed looks constant, like he wasn't expecting to stop. Could he have been distracted?" I asked. "Maybe, or maybe he ran the red and didn't expect anyone else in the intersection. Can you testify to this?" "I can testify that the evidence fits your brother's story," Frank said. "But I can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. A good lawyer will argue Hull didn't have time to react. This case will come down to the witnesses." I met James Tucker first at a coffee shop near his office. He was in his 40s, nervous, eyes darting to his phone. "Mr. Tucker," I said, "can you walk me through what you saw the night of the crash?" "Like I told the police," he said quickly. "I was waiting to cross at Commonwealth and Clarendon. I saw your brother's car run the red and hit the Mercedes. Clear as day. What were you doing there at 2 a.m.? I asked. "I'd been working late, walking home." "Your home's in the opposite direction from your office," I said, checking my notes. He shifted in his seat. "I'd stopped for a drink first." "At a bar? Which bar?" "I don't remember the name. Just somewhere along the way." "You work for Holt Court Properties, right?" I asked. "Yes, but that has nothing to do with—" "And your boss, Graham Hall, was the driver." He looked uncomfortable. "I know how that looks. But I'm telling the truth. I saw what I saw." I pressed him for 20 minutes, but his story never wavered. Too perfect, almost rehearsed. The exact same phrases used in the police report. Sarah Vance's interview was nearly identical. Same nervous tone. Same word-for-word account, same employment link to Holt. "Were you and Mr. Tucker together that night?" I asked. "No," she said quickly. "I didn't even know he was there until after the crash." "So you both just happened to be standing at the same intersection," I said, "at 2 o'clock in the morning?" She hesitated, just for a moment, before nodding. And that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. I still remember that day like it just happened. 2 witnesses, both working for the same company, and both saying the exact same thing, but they were lying. I knew it in my gut. Still, I had no proof. After the interviews, I sat in my car, staring at the building, my mind spinning. My brother Owen was being framed, and without evidence, no one would believe us. 2 respectable employees versus 1 guy with a DUI record. The jury would crush us. I needed more. Something real. Something undeniable. For the next week, I became obsessed with that intersection, the one where the crash happened. I visited it at different times of the day, studying every detail, looking for a clue I might have missed. I went to every nearby business, asking about security cameras. Most said no. Some had cameras facing the wrong direction. A few had recordings, but they'd already been overwritten, day after day. Hope kept slipping away. Then one night, while reviewing the same old footage again, I noticed something small but different. In the background of a single frame, barely visible, was a white delivery truck stopped at a red light. It was there for just a few seconds. But delivery trucks often have dash cams. That tiny detail lit a fire in me. The problem? I couldn't see any logos or company names, just a plain white truck. Still, I refused to give up. For 2 days straight, I contacted every delivery service in Boston. FedEx, UPS, Amazon, and even smaller local ones. Most ignored me. Some refused for privacy reasons. Then one email changed everything. It was from Quick Ship Logistics. Their message said, "Yes, we had a truck at that location in time. The driver was Mike Santos. We have dash cam footage, but we'll need legal clearance before we can release it." I sent them every document they needed. 3 days later, they replied. They required a subpoena. I filed it immediately. Holt's attorney fought back, calling it a fishing expedition, but the judge disagreed and granted the subpoena. 2 weeks before trial, a small package arrived at my office. Inside was a USB drive. I plugged it in with trembling hands. The footage was time-stamped 9:13:47 a.m., just before the crash. The truck was stopped at the red light. The dashcam had a wide view of the intersection. Then at 9:14:03, the light turned green for my brother Owen's lane. He drove forward perfectly in the right, and just 3 seconds later, Holt's silver Mercedes appeared from the left, running a red light at full speed. The impact was brutal. The Mercedes smashed into Owen's car, spinning it into a mailbox. Then, unbelievably, Holt reversed, repositioned his car, trying to make it look like Owen had hit him. My blood boiled. It was all right there, every lie exposed. I called Owen immediately. "I found it," I said, my voice shaking. "The proof. You were telling the truth." He started crying. "You believe me?" "I always did," I said. "I just needed to prove it." The trial began that Monday morning. I came prepared, footage ready. Before it started, Holt's lawyer approached me, pretending to be generous. "My client will settle. Split the insurance 50-50, he said. I looked him dead in the eye. "Your client is a liar, and I'm about to prove it." He went pale. In court, they presented their fake witnesses first, Tucker and Vance, both employees of Holt's company. Their stories were rehearsed, smooth, confident. Then it was my turn. "Your Honor," I said, "I'd like to introduce new evidence." I plugged in the USB drive and pressed play. The courtroom went silent. The green light, the red light runner, the crash, and Holt's shameless repositioning. You could hear people gasp. The truth was undeniable. When the video ended, the judge looked furious. "Mr. Graves," he said coldly, "your client has committed perjury. I'm dismissing all claims against Mr. Owen Perry, with prejudice, and I'm referring this case for criminal investigation." Owen grabbed me, hugging so tight I could barely breathe. "You did it!" he cried. I smiled. "No, we did. You told the truth, even when no one believed you." As we left the courtroom, the district attorney approached me. "We're opening an investigation into Holt and his witnesses," she said. "Do you have any idea how this all started?" I nodded, showing her my notes. "Both witnesses," I said, "work for Holt's company. The lie that almost destroyed my brother's life had just destroyed the man who created it." The district attorney looked serious as she took notes. "If what you're saying is true," she said, "then we're looking at fraud, perjury, and witness tampering." "I'm sure of it," I told her. "Holt called those witnesses after the crash. Check their phone records and the traffic footage again. You'll see both Tucker and Vance arriving minutes after the accident. They didn't witness the crash. They just showed up afterward." D.A. Morrison nodded. "We'll subpoena the phone records. If you're right, this goes way deeper than a car accident." Outside the courtroom, my parents were waiting. They'd come for the trial, but I could tell they didn't expect much. My father walked over to Owen, his eyes glassy. "Lewis was right," he said quietly. "We're sorry, son. We should have believed you." Owen wiped his eyes. "I gave you all plenty of reasons not to," he said softly. "But Lewis, he believed me when it counted." That night, Owen and I sat together in my apartment, two brothers who hadn't really talked in years. We shared coffee, laughter, and finally, honesty. "Can I tell you something?" Owen said. "When you stood up for me in that hospital, it was the first time anyone in this family believed in me. You didn't have to, and I didn't deserve it. But you did it anyway. And for the first time, I understood what real love means. Not the kind you earn, but the kind you're given, just because you're family." I looked at him, my throat tight. "You were always worthy of it," I said. "We just didn't see it before." He smiled faintly. "You saw me when no one else did." 6 months later, things were different. Owen was still working at the warehouse, but now as a shift supervisor. He was still going to AA meetings, still rebuilding his life, one day at a time. We had dinner together every week. For the first time as adults, we weren't just brothers, we were friends. As for me, I went back to the firm. Everyone had thought I was crazy for taking a hopeless case. But when we won, it changed everything. I made junior partner right on schedule. But more than the promotion, I gained something far more valuable: perspective. I realized that real belief isn't logical. It isn't about facts or evidence. It's about faith, the kind of faith that says, "I choose to trust you, even when the world says I shouldn't." That kind of belief can change everything. Yes, it was the dashcam footage that cleared Owen's name. But what really saved him was the belief that made me look for that footage in the first place. Sometimes, the greatest thing we can do for family isn't fixing their problems or bailing them out of trouble. It's believing in them when no one else will. That belief, stronger than fear, stronger than mistakes, is what truly changes lives. In the end, the evidence didn't just clear my brother's name. It reminded me of something far more powerful. Sometimes believing in someone is the evidence. Because real love isn't proven by words. It's proven by faith. Faith that stands even when the world doubts. My brother didn't just win his freedom that day. He won back his dignity and our family's trust. And I learned that sometimes the most heroic thing you can do isn't fighting the world. It's standing beside someone the world has already given up on. What would you do if the person everyone called guilty was someone you loved? Let me know in the comments. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still believes in second chances.